short and distort, which is the opposite of pump and dump. You establish a short position, you release information to the public that's negative about a particular name, stock drops, you reap the rewards of that stock drop. Of course, if that information is accurate, that's a benefit to the market. If the information is inaccurate, that's problematic. The next thing would be coordinated short selling. Short selling by a number of firms to make it look like there's broad-based sentiment that the company's stock should be under pressure or is overvalued. A third thing that is often talked about is naked short selling, borrowing shares to short that really don't exist. And then a fourth thing that may be looked at is, are people short selling in advance of material non-public information that is negative? This type of probe could be any one of or a combination of those.
Now, one of the things that folks have called for is this idea that short sellers should have to disclose when they get out of positions. Do you agree with that?
Andrew, let me put it this way. There is a lot of debate going on right now about what should and should not be disclosed by individual participants in our marketplace. I am a believer that when they have large positions, and we have rules around this, 5% as an individual or a group, delayed reporting pursuant to 13F of positions by large money managers, that reporting on an individual basis is beneficial. That said, I don't think that individual position reporting, in particular short position reporting, is a good idea. And the reason is short selling is a benefit in many ways to our marketplace. It puts information into the marketplace that wouldn't otherwise be there. Not all sentiment in the marketplace can be positive. Some has to be negative. The question is, if you had to disclose what I would say is smaller short positions, would those investors be prejudiced? And that's a very good question. I do, however, very much believe that we can improve our aggregate short sale information. How much short interest is there in the market at any one time? And have that information available on a more timely basis.
Jay, one of the things that's come up, especially in the last year, and this goes around GameStop and AMC, and you can see it on Reddit and a lot of these message boards, is the issue of naked shorting and a view among the retail community especially that there is, I don't want to say some kind of collusion, but some kind of collusion taking place between the short sellers and potentially the banks and the market makers, and that in fact these shares that are being shorted actually don't exist. When you were running the SEC, go ahead.
No, look, that question comes up continually. And here is an area where technology can help us. We now have the consolidated audit trail. We have other technologies. We should be able to trace over time whether this behavior is actually occurring. And if it is occurring, the extent to which it's occurring, and whether it is an accident, as some people say from time to time, or whether it is intentional. Technology should be able to help us settle this question.
But I guess the question is, when you were in this office sitting in the chair, could you see that information? Does the technology exist? Were you able to monitor that? And what did you see if you did?
Andrew, we did look at this. I believe that the development of the consolidated audit trail, or the CAT, which I and my colleagues very much push for, is going to help, what I would say is, draw a line under this over time.
But when you see, for example, and I'm just using the GameStop scenario, there was an allegation at one point that the short interest, if you will, was 140% of the stock outstanding. Now, certain people would look at that and say, this doesn't make sense. However, I can do the math, and you can do the math and explain why that is the case, but I'm not sure the public. So part of it is how much of this is a public misunderstanding and how much of this is actually something nefarious that's taking place underneath the surface.
I think there's a large element of public misunderstanding, because you and I both know, and we've gone over the math on the program, that you can have 150% short interest without having naked shorting.
But that goes to, I mean, one of the reasons why this investigation seems to be even happening, I think, is a function of the vocal nature of so many people on these message boards coming to the SEC on this, no?
Look, you make a very good point. Whistleblowers, others come to the SEC, they come to the DOJ, and the SEC and the DOJ, they take these allegations seriously and they run them to ground. So we will see, but what I wanted to explain is there are a number of misconceptions about the role and what I would say is technicals of short selling. But I think that given the general noise around this, it is important to run them to ground.
Final question for you, Jay. It's really just maybe a philosophical / policy question. After the financial crisis of 2008, the public, if you will, the retail public actually seemed to like short sellers, it seemed, because there were some that were exposing things. They were making, they were coming forward and they were sort of seen as heroes in certain ways, right? If you can think of some of the people that were characters in The Big Short. This is all reversed in this cycle, and I'm wondering what you make of that.
Well, Andrew, once again, you make a terrific historical point, which is, where you have pressure to regulate depends on the issues of the day, and you have to think about these things in historical context. What you just identified with whether it's Madoff or others or Enron, the value that short sellers, that people who pore over companies to find out if they're overvalued or what I would say even going to fraud in those cases, stating their earnings and the like, is extremely high to the marketplace. I mean, the marketplace has people who all the time believe stocks are under or overvalued. And short sellers, I believe, provide a great benefit to our marketplace.
Jay Clayton, it's always good to see you. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, coming up, futures right now. We'll take a quick look before we head to break. They're mixed. NASDAQ's up. Now the Dow is in the green, but basically unchinned. We're going to talk later to Morgan Stanley's Mike Wilson. That'll be good to get an up.